Balloon on the tail. Today is New Year's Day. In the morning, Carrie, a little mouse, and her mother are going to grandmother's. She's very happy because she's wearing nice clothes. Good morning, Carrie. Little Rabbit sees them. You look pretty today. Thank you. But look at your beautiful tail, says the rabbit. It is touching the ground. Oh, my God, says Carrie, and she carries her long tail with hands. Then there comes a dog with a big balloon. Why do you carry your tail, Carrie? Asks the dog. Because it touches the ground. It will be dirty. Oh, don't worry, I can help you. Then the dog ties a big balloon on Carrie's tail. That's okay, says the dog. Your tail won't touch the ground again.
Is it time for supper? Last week, I went out to have lunch with my friend George. George is very fat. He likes good food and eats a lot of it. We sat at a big table in the restaurant. After a big meal, we had some cakes and drank a few cups of coffee. We must go now, George, I said. We have been here for more than 3 hours. It's 4:30. What do you mean? Asked George in surprise. We can't leave now. It's nearly time for supper. Who's broken a window? Billy and Bobby were small boys. They were brothers, and they often fight with each other. Last Saturday, their mother said to them, I'm going to cook our lunch now. Go out and play in the garden and be good. Yes, Mommy, the two boys answered, and they went out. They played for half an hour, and then Billy ran into the kitchen. Mommy, he said, Bobby's broken a window in Mrs. Allen's house. Mrs. Allen was one of their neighbors. He's a bad boy, his mother said. How did he break it? I threw a stone at him, Billy answered, and he quickly moved down.
A nice young man. An old lady opens her window and looks out of it. The sun shines brightly. There's a young man in the garden in front of her house. The old lady looks at him and says, He is cutting grass for me. She goes out into the garden and says to the young man, Why are you cutting grass for me, young man? The young man says, Today's my holiday. You are old and live alone. I want to do something for you. It's so kind of you, my boy, says the old lady. Come into my house and have a cup of tea. Okay, answered the young man, but I must finish the work first. When the old lady goes out into the garden an hour later, the young man is not there. The garden looks clean and tidy. What a nice young man, says the old lady. Honest. One afternoon, I went to a shop to buy some ink. There was only one young shop assistant in it. He was reading a book. I want to buy a bottle of ink, I said. There was no answer. He was still going on reading his book. Then I asked again. He stood up and gave me a bottle of ink. When I was out of the shop, I found the change he gave me was too much. So I went back to the shop. The man pulled a long face when he saw me again. Now, what do you want to buy? He said angrily. Nothing, I said. You gave me too much change just now. I want to give you back the money. Thank you, the man said with a red face.
Boys or girls? A lot of boys and girls in Western countries are wearing the same kind of clothes, and many of them have long hair, so it is often difficult to tell whether they are boys or girls. One day, an old man went for a walk in the park. When he was tired, he sat on a chair near the river. A child was standing on the other side of the river. "Oh," the old man said to the person next to him on the chair, "do you see that child with long hair? Is it a boy or a girl?" "A girl," said the person. "She is my daughter." "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that you were her mother." "I'm not her mother," said the person. "I am her father."
Late for work. I got home at 6 in the evening. "Are you tired, Ted?" my wife asked. "No," I answered, "but I'm hungry." "Dinner will be ready in half an hour," she said. "Did you catch your train this morning?" she asked again. "No, I didn't. I ran all the way to the station and got there at 4 minutes past 9. "Which train did you catch?" she asked. "The 9:15. "What time did you get to the office?" "At 10 o'clock. "At 10 o'clock?" my wife shouted. "Wasn't the boss angry?" "No, he wasn't at the office," I said. "He got there at 10:30. He didn't catch the train either."
Doing as Mom told. Tom was 7 years old, and he was going to school soon. He was a good boy, but he didn't like to get up early. He slept until 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. His mother didn't want Tom to be late for school, so she bought him an alarm clock. She said to Tom, "You must get up when you hear the clock ring." After that, Tom got up when he heard the clock ring at 6:30 every morning. One day, the clock didn't work. Tom didn't get up at 6:30. It was time for breakfast. Mother went to wake him up. Tom said to his mother, "I woke up very early." "Then why didn't you get up?" Mother was angry. "You told me that I must get up when I heard the clock ring, so I'm still waiting for the bell."
Too late. Peter works in a food factory. He helps the shopkeeper. He puts food on the shelves every day. Then people come into the shop and buy the food. Today there aren't any bags of rice on the shelf. "Peter," says the shopkeeper, "we need some bags of rice. Bring some rice to the shelf. Hurry up!" Peter runs to get some bags of rice. They are in another room, and they are on the top of the shelf. The shelf is high up. Peter is tall, but he can't reach the bags. He brings 2 boxes and puts one on the top of the other. Then he stands on them. Now he reaches the bags on the shelf. The shopkeeper is coming. He is calling Peter. "Peter, hurry up! What are you doing? Where are the bags of rice?" he says. He opens the door. He can't see Peter on the boxes. "Don't open the door," Peter says. Then Peter falls down. Now Peter is on the floor. There's some rice on his head.
Showing the way. One evening, Mr. Black was driving in the country and looking for a small hotel. When he saw an old woman on the side of the road, he stopped his car and said to the old woman, "I want to go to the Sun Hotel. Do you know it?" "Yes," the old woman answered. "I will show you the way." She got in Mr. Black's car and they drove about 12 miles. When they came to a small house, the old woman said, "Stop here." Mr. Black stopped and looked at the house. "But this isn't a hotel," he said to the old woman. "No," the old woman answered. "This is my house, and I'll show you the way to the hotel. After I got off, you turn around and go back 9 miles. Then you'll see the hotel."
Crying for music. Mr. Smith likes singing very much, but he is very bad at it. Last week, he went to dinner at Mary's house. Mary was his best friend, and there were some other friends there too. They had a good dinner, and then Mary went to Mr. Smith and said, "You can sing, Peter. Please sing us something." Mr. Smith was very happy and began to sing an old song about the mountains of Germany. The other friends listened to it for a few minutes, and then one of them began to cry. She was a small woman. One of the other friends went up to her, put his hand on her bag, and said, "Please don't cry. Are you a German?" "No," she answered. "I'm not a German, and I've never been to Germany. I'm a singer, and I love music."
What did I do at school today? Polly went to school when she was 6 years old. She liked her first day very much. Her teacher, Miss Yates, was very nice, and other children in her class were nice too. But at the end of the second day, when other children left the classroom, Polly stayed behind and waited. Miss Yates had some work to do and did not see Polly at first. But then she looked up and saw her. "Why didn't you go home with the others, Polly?" she asked kindly. "Did you want to ask me a question?" "Yes, Miss Yates," Polly said. "What is it?" Miss Yates asked. "What did I do in school today?" Polly said. Miss Yates laughed. "What did you do in school today?" she said. "Why did you ask me that, Polly?" "Because I'm going to go home now," Polly answered. "And my mother's going to ask me that." Fishing. Ted worked in a factory in a big town. He liked fishing very much and was very good at it. When he was free, he went down to the small river behind the factory to fish. But when there were very few there, because the water was dirty. Then one summer, he went to the seaside during the holidays and stayed at a small, cheap hotel. "It will be quite different from fishing in our river," he thought. On the first day, he caught a lot of fish and was very happy. On the second day, he sat on the seaside fishing all day, but caught nothing.
Trying to be good. Helen has a bad eyesight, so she usually wears glasses. But when she goes out with his boyfriend Jim, she doesn't wear her glasses. When she comes back home, she wears her glasses again. One day, her mother asked her, "But Helen, why don't you wear your glasses when you are with Jim? He takes you to many beautiful places in his car, but you don't see anything." "Yes, Mother," says Helen, "but I look nice to Jim when I'm not wearing my glasses, and he looks nice to me too."
Litter and Letter. The story is about a schoolboy called Olive. One day, his mother told him to post a letter. Olive put the letter in his pocket and walked down the street in a hurry. He didn't see a letterbox on either side of the street. Instead, he saw a basket with some words on it. Put litter in the basket. Olive took a look at the words, thought them over, and said, "They are poor in spelling. They can't even spell the word letter correctly." Olive put the letter in the basket. Then he ran home and told his mother about it. "Oh, my boy," said the mother, "you've put the letter in the litter basket. You must get it back." With the words, "I'm sorry," Olive ran all the way to the litter basket. Luckily, he found the letter and put it into the letterbox at last. He said to himself, "I must study hard from now on."
Happy time. Alice is a little girl of 8. She has a brother named Tim. He is 2 years younger than she. Last summer, Alice's mother took them to her father's farm. There they had a very good time. Alice and her brother got to know some ducks. These ducks lived in a little greenhouse near the road. They were very lovely. Every morning the ducks walked down the road to a pool. Then they went into the river. Alice and Tim sat on the bank and saw them swimming. At that moment, both the ducks and the children were very happy.
A clever dog. George is a young man. He does not have a wife, but he has a very small car and a very big dog. He likes playing tennis. Last Monday, he played tennis for an hour, and then ran out and jumped into a car. His dog came after him, but it didn't jump into the same car. It jumped into the next car. "Come here, foolish dog!" George shouted at it. But the dog stayed in the other car. George put his key in the lock of the car, but the key did not turn. Then he looked carefully at the car again. It wasn't his. He was in the wrong car, and the dog was in the right one. "He's sitting and laughing at me," George said angrily to himself. But then he smiled and got into his car with the dog.
Once a year. Tom finished secondary school when he was 18 years old. He wanted to work at a bank in town. He went to the bank and asked for a job there. A man took him into a small room and gave him questions on a piece of paper. Tom wrote the answers on the paper in a hurry. The man looked for a few minutes. Then he said, "Was your birthday on the 12th of December, Tom?" "Yes, sir," Tom said. "What year?" the man asked. "Oh, once a year, sir," Tom said.
Dirty Heart. Tom was working in a town far from his home. One day, he wanted to send a letter to his wife. Tom could neither read nor write. Then he had to work all day, so he could only look for someone to write a letter for him late at night. At last, Tom found the house of a letter writer. The letter writer was already in bed. "It's very late," he said. "What do you want?" "I want to write a letter to my wife," said Tom. The letter writer was not pleased. He thought for a few seconds and then said to Tom, "My handwriting is strange, so I have to go to your home and read your letter to your wife. It will cost you a lot of money." Tom went away quickly.
Help. Last Sunday morning, Ming Ming went to her grandma. When she got to the bus stop, she saw an old woman standing on the street corner. She was blind and was afraid to move her feet. Ming Ming went up to the old woman and said, "Can I help you, Granny?" "Yes, my good girl," answered the old woman. "My daughter is in hospital opposite the street, but I can't get there by myself." Then she told Ming Ming that only she and her daughter lived together. Her daughter suddenly fell ill and stayed at hospital. Ming Ming took the blind woman's hand and led her across the street and took her to the hospital. In the hospital, she helped the old woman.
Being too confident. Jack thought that he was very clever. He often said that he was the cleverest boy in the world. One day he said to Tom, "You will never fool me, Tom. You are too foolish." "Wait here by the door," answered Tom. "I'll find a way to fool you." Then he went away. 2 hours later, Rose came along. "Why are you standing here?" she asked Jack. "I'm waiting for Tom," said Jack. "He wants to fool me." "He has gone home," said Rose. "He's fooled you." From then on, Jack never said,
The Lion and the Mouse. In the morning, a mouse is looking for food outside. A lion catches him. "Please let me go, Mr. Lion." The mouse is afraid. "Maybe I will help you next time." The lion laughs. "How can a little mouse help a big lion?" Then he thinks, "Okay, I will let you go, because you are too small." "Thank you," the mouse says. "That's very kind of you." The next morning, the mouse is looking for food again. Suddenly he sees the lion. He falls into a trap. Now he is up high in a net on the tree. The lion sees the mouse and says, "Help me, Mr. Mouse." "Don't be afraid. I will help you," says the mouse. The little mouse begins to bite the net. At last, the lion is out. He is very happy to be free again. "Thank you very much, Mr. Mouse. Let's be friends, okay?"
Being balanced. 2 women on the train were arguing. At last, one of them called the conductor. She said, "If this window is open, I will catch a cold, and I'll perhaps die." The other woman said, "If this window is closed, I will die. I will feel difficult to breathe." The conductor didn't know what to do. A man had been listening all the time. He said he had an idea. "First, open a window. That will kill one," he said. "Next, close it. That will kill the other."
Ship or sheep? Li Lei was a Chinese boy. His father was a scientist. One day, his father was leaving for America to have a meeting. Before he started out, Li Lei asked his father, "Are you going to the United States by plane or by sheep, Dad?" "What?" his father asked. Li Lei asked the question again. "Oh, how can I get there on sheep?" "No, never," his father said. "But why not, Dad?" Li Lei asked. "My boy, I even cannot get to America on a horse. I'll go there by ship, but no."
Punishment. Jane liked watching TV too much, so she was always late for lunch. At last, her mother said to her, "If you are late for lunch once again, I won't let you say a word during lunch." The next day, Jane was late for lunch again. As soon as she came into the dining room, she began to say, "Mother!" "Don't say a word," cried the mother. When lunch was over, Mother asked, "Well, Jane, what did you want to say when you came in?" "I only wanted to say that the baby was filling your new hat with milk," said Jane.
Enjoying share. John lives in a big city with his wife and child. It's Sunday today. John takes his blue bike out of the house and washes it. Just then, one of his friends comes to visit him. The friend looks at it for a minute. Then he says to John, "That's a nice bike. Is it yours?" "Sometimes," John answers. The friend is surprised. "Sometimes?" he asks. "What do you mean?" John tells the friend slowly, "When there's a party in the city, my daughter Rose uses it. When I wash it, it looks very nice and clean. My wife uses it to go shopping. When it needs washing, it is mine." Can a baby keep coins? A busy mother asked her young son to take his baby sister out into the garden and look after her for half an hour while she was doing some housework in the house. The boy took the baby out, and they seemed to be playing quite happily until suddenly the baby began to cry. "Billy, what's the matter with Susan? Why is she crying?" shouted the mother to her son when she heard the baby's voice. "Because she wants my coins," answered Billy. "Well, let her play with a few of them if it stops her crying," said the mother. "But she wants to keep them," said Billy. "No, she doesn't," the mother said. "She's only a baby. She's so young that she can't understand anything like that." "But I know she wants to keep them," answered Billy. "She's already swallowed 2 of them."